Good afternoon, Anita. Can you hear me?
Mr. Col. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very well, and welcome to CWS as it is.
Thank
Anita,
you. Thank you.
I, I think, can you put some space between the top of your head? I think the top of your head being cut off a little, just a little. Right.
Okay.
Awesome.
That better?
Yeah, very
Okay,
much.
great.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for
Anita,
having me.
you're one of our young gems with an interest in seeing Guyana rise to her potential. My question to you is, well, first of all, tell us a little bit about your educational background and why you're here today to talk to us.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It really means a lot for me to be able to share my knowledge and my thoughts on what I'll be speaking on today. I do have a Bachelor of Science in Business Management as well as an MBA in International Business. That's good to know. A lot of what we'll be speaking on today relates to that area of study. So for my background, I would like to speak Guyana today.
Okay. Um, why did you study business?
There was always something about business that attracted me to that field. My parents were owned their business for a very long time, so I like to believe that I always have had this sort of entrepreneurial spirit. So it was something that really interested me from a very young age, and that's why I was able to be able to study in get a Bachelor of Science in Management as well as an MBA.
When you think of Guyana, what comes to mind?
Um, the first word that comes to mind would be home. I was raised, I wasn't born there. I was born in New York, but I was raised in Guyana for 8 years of my life. And my parents made the decision to move back to New York so I can further my education over here. But I've been back to Guyana very frequently. I'm a frequent visitor every year, a few times a year. So that would be the first thing that comes to mind would be home.
How would you say your academic research and studies affected the way you view Guyana?
Well, for once, as I progressed to a higher level in my education, that is, as I became more exposed to certain research behind facts and fears in my MBA background, uh, it became a little bit more concerning to me as I did this research, in-depth research, I should say. So for right now, I'm a little bit concerned over a lot of the numbers hovering over Guyana, and that's why I'm here today to shed some light on that, so your viewers can be aware of that.
Well, let's get started. I want to start with this, if you don't mind. In 2011, Guyana places 100 out of 189 in the World Bank Group's investment index, but then 123rd today. You want to start with that? What are your thoughts on that?
You're talking about the ease of business
Yes.
indicator.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think your connection is a little.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Anita. I think the connection is going in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So you are referring to the ease of business indicator, correct?
Yes.
So right now, Guyana is actually 123rd out of 189 economies. And what this particular index is about, this is conducted by the World Bank, by the way. So it's trusted, it's reputable. There's no arguing with these numbers, no running away from them either. What this is that it's an index that includes a lot of different categories, and some of these categories include uh, how long it takes to start a business, how long it takes to get credit, how long it takes to resolve insolvency within that. So they're currently ranked 123rd, and why this is very concerning for me is because they were only ranked 100 in 2011. So just a matter of a few years for them to drop that amount of spaces is very concerning. And especially as a business student and a foreseeable foreign investor in Guyana, that number is not very attractive to me. So I don't see why it would be very attractive to outside investors. And by outside investors, I mean those who are not Guyanese. I don't see why they would find that market attractive to invest in.
According to your article in the Kaichor News, you believe we can do better.
Mhm.
Why do you think this is possible?
I think that Guyana has so much more potential to do better. When I look at the news nowadays, and you see all of the the instances of crime that's being committed, all the instances of corruption that's happening, it's very, very worrisome. So I think that being that Guyana has so much potential, and by potential I mean in business, I mean the opportunity to do so much better, I think that the government needs to be able to focus on these issues before they're able to focus on issues that they're putting first. So to make it more clear, I would say that they need to have their priorities straightened out for the country to do better.
Can you tell us a bit about what your research said about Guyana's ranking in crime and suicide?
Well, for crime, Guyana is ranked 6th out of 147 nations. And I'll tell you what they're between. For crime, they're between Afghanistan and Nigeria. So that's one of the more...
Guyana is between Afghanistan and Nigeria?
Nigeria on that and that particular index, and they're ranked 6th place out of 147 different countries that they have data from. So that one's very appalling to me. And in terms of suicide, this is perhaps the most appalling one. They're ranked number 1 out of 192 countries with a percentage of 32.5%, and that is per every 100,000 people. So I think those are some issues that really need to be addressed if the country is to do better.
What does this mean? I mean, what do these numbers mean from a business standpoint and an international investing standpoint? What do these numbers mean?
Well, as I had mentioned earlier, if you have more appealing numbers and more appealing statistics, it would open up a more attractive market to foreign investors. So for me, I would say a personal reason for me wanting to go and invest in Guyana would be because I have close ties in Guyana. I have a know-how of the culture and how things are run. So that would be a particular aspect for me when I would think about investing in Guyana. But as I had said, it wouldn't be attractive for someone else who's not of Guyanese descent to go and invest in Guyana, because why would they want if they have such a high, a different country that has better statistics and want to go invest in that country per se?
I want to try something with you, Anita. Only because it happens to me sometimes when I'm at someone browsing with my... you're on your iPad, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Right. Can you check your settings and see if it might be picking up some other Wi-Fi other than the one that you have at home? Because sometimes Optimum kicks in and it's not as powerful. So let me go on a slight break, and whilst you check on for that.
Sure, no problem.
All right.
Okay.
We are back with Miss Anita Jaikaran. Yes, Anita, you were saying, well, let me ask you this question though. What was your first introduction to politics in Guyana?
So my first introduction to politics was from the inception of the Alliance for Change Party, the AFC. I've been involved with that for quite some time, but I don't think I really got involved until the last elections in 2011. I helped with a lot of the campaigning involved and whatnot. So I think from that period to this period in time, I've learned a lot, and I've been keeping up a lot with the politics, especially on a daily basis. So I have learned quite a lot from that period of time.
Obviously, development in Guyana resonates with you a lot. And
Yes.
with your background, your exposure to, the academic side of things, How do you believe you can contribute to this development?
Well, I'm a strong believer that I don't think I'll be able to contribute to this development unless there is a change of government. Because I don't think that this current administration is really open to hearing the opinions of outsiders or letting outsiders get involved in the politics there. So that's why I really do stand for a change in government, because I feel that more people will be able to have their thoughts and their ideas heard, and they'll be listened to, as opposed to just a select few being heard.
Well, what are some developmental indicators in Guyana that drew your attention? You mentioned crime and suicide a moment ago.
Right.
What are some others?
Well, some other ones would definitely be, I know I touched on it earlier. There's one with corruption. It was a recent indicator that came out. Guyana is currently ranked 124th out of 175 countries. So that's another one. And then there's also the one of poverty. So there's over 35% of people in Guyana currently living below the poverty line, and they're ranked 55 out of 157. And on this particular index, though, for number one is the highest. So 55, being 55 on that list is still a relatively high number. So those are some other indicators that are really interesting. There's a ton more that everyone, all you have to do is type in World Development Indicators on Google, and a ton of different indicators would come up. There's a lot of journal articles that are published for anyone who's interested in going to look these up. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of people would be surprised about a lot of the facts surrounding Guyana. And I think they would be upset to see that
Go ahead, Anita. I think we just
Yeah,
lost.
sorry.
Oh, we just lost you for a moment. You're pretty young. You're very young, and you're quite brilliant and inspiring. If you were in a room or somewhere with a group of young people like yourself, let's say in Guyana, and they're curious about the country's economic development, what is a conversation, what do you think you'll be telling them?
I think I would be shedding light on a lot of these indicators, because I think these indicators are what make the difference. Like I said, they're facts. There's no arguing with them. They're done by trusted, reputable organizations. So I think a lot of people would be surprised, and I don't think a lot of people usually know about these indicators. So I was very fortunate to have come across that in my research during my graduate studies. And that's why I really want to share that with people. And especially that's why I wrote a letter that was recently published in the Kaichura News and the Stabroek News as well, just to really let people become aware of these and try to spark that interest so people can go and do their research for themselves.
When you were researching, which one of these things really stood out, really hit you, that, my God, we have to do something about this?
I think the one that really struck me was the suicide, because being ranked number one out of 192 countries really says something. And especially, there needs to be more policies implemented or more awareness being raised over this, and I know in recent news a government official was stated saying that Guyana is a happy place. I think people need to stop living in denial and just recognize, what's really happening around us, and especially what's happening in that country. So I think a lot of these things really do need to be made a priority over other things, I would say, and then just for them to be addressed as soon as they can be.
And when you wrote that letter to Kaichur, expressing your concern and highlighting some of those statistics, when did this actually happen? Is it soon after you discover these things, or what really inspired that letter?
I actually had just came back from a recent trip to Guyana. So I went to Guyana this past February, and just seeing what was going on, pretty much. I mean, riding around in Georgetown, I was seeing so much garbage everywhere, just piled. I know I've heard stories of Georgetown being the garden city, and it didn't look like a garden city to me. And just seeing what people were experiencing, seeing there were still complaints of people having blackouts and water shortages and just all these issues happening. And I just got really upset that when I came back, I was like, you know what, let me just put this down on paper and just try to give people some insight on what really is going on. Because like I said, I don't think people can really argue with the facts. And once you have the facts in front of you, there's, no running from it.
If you had whatever government gets in after the May 11th elections, and if you could, if you had an ear of an official that can really make a difference, make policy change, have you thought of any recommendations, or what would be some of your recommendations? Where would you start?
Sorry, in terms of what? I missed half of what you said.
Okay.
The middle part.
If after these elections and the government asks you for some recommendations, what would you say?
Well, first and foremost, I think that a lot of these issues that we mentioned from throughout this discussion, I think that they need to try to sort of implement some policies to deal with these issues. Because I think, for a recent example, I think the recent opening of the Marriott Hotel, that was built on taxpayers' money, and it was meant to increase the tourism of the country, or so they say. But, I feel that there's other things that take precedence over, tourism. You first have to make, the people of your country happy before you can try to attract tourists to a country, So I just feel like what I would recommend is that certain policies be implemented in terms of, how do you deal with corruption, or how do you deal with crime? Because these statistics are so alarming that, you need to sort of move up into the ranks. And one other thing that, I should mention is that why I'm so upset about these statistics is that when you look at the trend, so when you look at the past years in comparison to the present, they're either decreasing, or they're not really doing any better. Or if they increase by such a little amount. And that's why I say that I think Guyana has the potential to do so much better and so much more for its people.
Where would you like to see Guyana in 20 years?
In 20 years, well, I would say for me personally, I would like to see it blooming. I would like to see the population increase, because a lot more people are staying rather than migrating to a different country for a better life. I would like to see, crime go down, corruption go down. I would like to see a sound business atmosphere where people can go and, business is booming and foreign investors find the market so attractive that they are rushing to Guyana to invest their monies. And definitely that's what I would like for Guyana in 20 years.
And here you are with an MBA. How would you like to see yourself in 10 years?
How would I like to see myself, you said?
Yes, in 10 years.
Well, for me, I would see myself pursuing a PhD within that 10 years. I feel that I have so much ideas and so much knowledge to share from if I get a PhD, especially at teaching at a university level. So that's what I would see myself doing in 10 years. And also, from a more personal standpoint, I would see myself visiting Guyana more often. I would see myself being a foreign investor if there's a change in government, and if the country is better by then, hopefully it will be. I would see myself being more involved in business there.
What really appeals to you as a young person? What is it about Guyana that appeals to you? What appeals to you?
Well, I would say, sorry?
No, go ahead. I was just repeating the question. What appeals to you about Guyana?
Oh, what appeals to what appeals to me, I would say, I think Guyana is such a beautiful place. I think growing up there, it means so much to me. I am so very fond of Guyana. I have, some very close family that still lives there. So whenever I go back, it still feels like home. I still refer to it as home to this day. So I think it's more personal when I say that's what appeals to me. But I hope that my answer changes within, I would say, another few years, and then I would be able to give a longer list of what appeals to me. Hopefully, maybe safety. Hopefully, maybe not that much crime going on, and all of that. So, yeah.
Any message for the youth of Guyana?
Yes, of course. Well, as a fellow youth myself, I just want to let all of the youths out there who are watching know that, I may not, for me personally, I don't have the right to exercise my vote this upcoming elections, but I want to urge all of you to go out there and to recognize the need for true progress in Guyana and the need for a change of government. And, even if that isn't the case, just, do your own research. Go online. It's so easy to just go on Google and type in World Development Indicators and see for yourself what's really going on. And make that sound decision when you go to the polling booths on May 11th. Go in and make the decision that you think that will be the best outcome for your future. And that's my message to the youths, is to really just go out there and vote, because your vote does have an impact on the future of the country.
What drives you, and where do you get your inspiration?
I would say my love for this particular cause. I would say my love for Guyana really drives my inspiration behind this particular one, because I really, really love Guyana. It's a very close part to my heart, and I really want to see it do better. And even a lot of the people I know over here that are Guyanese, they don't visit Guyana very often. I'm talking about youths, that is. They don't visit Guyana often, and their parents have been back to Guyana. I don't know when, since they left. A lot of them haven't gone back. And it's sad to hear when the things that they say about Guyana. And for me, I think Guyana is so much more than that. When you visit, and it's so very different than other countries. So, like I said, I see the potential there, and I really hope that people have a different view and a more positive view of Guyana in the coming years.
What's next for you, Anita?
Well, right now I'm job hunting. I'm hoping to get a job in consulting very soon. But like I said, I'm hoping to pursue that PhD. So hopefully, very soon, I'll be knowing if I'll be pursuing a PhD.
Anita, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Collins.
You're welcome, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.